Hello everyone, this is Raj. Welcome to the world of Salesforce. Today is the day 49 class where we are going to discuss data types, variables and operators. What are these? Right? So the first one is data types. Yesterday we have introduced this topic, data types, right? So what kind of data we are storing in a variable? So in this variable, so we'll discuss what is a variable is. So what kind of data we are storing in a variable. So during admin concepts also, I think we have seen all these things, right? So while creating any field, so go to objects and go to object manager, select any object in the fields and relationship. See here, when you go to any account object, so in this fields and relationship, when you create a new field, see here, all these are data type. In the admin concept, you are seeing this data type. Right? So I'll check box, currency, data, date, time, email, geolocation number, all these are different data types. That means what kind of data you are storing, what kind of data the variable can hold, right? So this particular number, see this is the number data type. That means it is storing, the variable is storing number value. So this is percent. So the variable is storing percentage value. Phone, variable is storing phone number value, right? So we have two types of data types in Apex here. So what are the two types of data types? So the first one is primitive data type and the second one is S object data type. Okay, primitive data types and S object data type. So what are these primitive data types? So nothing but a basic or we can say that fundamental data types. Right? Primitive data types are the basic data types, or we can say that fundamental data types provided by the Apex programming language. Right? So what are these primitive data types like integer, right? Long, double, decimal, boolean, id, string. So all these are different. Okay, date, whatever we have seen just now in the admin concepts, the same time, date, time, like this. Okay, all these are nothing but primitive data types. So what is a string here? String is the string data type allows us to store collection of characters. So collection of characters here, right? So that may include special characters as well. So if you are selecting string data type means there you can store collection of characters. Let us say I'm storing here Salesforce like this, a collection of characters. All these are different characters, right? A collection of characters where you can include special characters as well here, right? So it is storing the data in a string variable. So it is storing a data in a string variable. So we have to enclose this particular string in a single quotation like this. Keep in mind that. So while you are preparing the string data type, whenever you are providing any value to that particular string, you have to enclose the value in the single quotation, in the single quotes. Okay. Like this. Salesforce, welcome, right? Like this. In a single quotes, you need to mention the characters. Right? Each character like this, for example, W, E, L, each character will occupy almost 1 byte of memory. Each character will occupy 1 byte of memory. Right? So how we are going to correlate this particular string to your admin concepts? Yes. So each text field, when you go to the admin concept, see here, each text field where you can store a group of characters, where you can store special characters as well here. Right? Each text field, each text area field, each text area long field, right? In the email also, if you can see here, email, a group of characters, including special character as well. At the rate, like the gmail.com. So where we can include special characters as well here, email, right? URLs, like this. If you want to select pick list, see here, where is the pick list, multi-select pick list, right? All these are referring to the string data types only. So in a Apex, when you are writing any variable, declaring it as a string data type, there you can store text, text area long, text area, phone number, email ID, all these things we can store in that string. When you are declaring the particular variable as a string, there you can store all this. Right, in the admin concepts we have seen, right, we are having different data types set for text, different text area long. But in programming, coming to the programming, when you are selected the string, all these type of variables can be stored in the string. Right, in the, when you are selecting any string data type, there you can store all these emails, text areas, pick list, auto numbers, geolocation, all these things we can store in the particular string. Okay, now coming to the next one, like take some any date. So date means where we are going to store date, right? So time, where we are going to allows us to store the time value. Here date value, here time value. Either it may be in a 12 hours format or 24 hours format. Right? Same date and time values will reflect in the admin console. If you go here, see here, time is there. Okay? Allows users to enter a local time. So like this in the 24 format, 24 hours format or 12 hours format. Right? So date time, if you can see here, date time, there is one more, yeah. Date and date time. Date is nothing but allow users to enter a date. So in the programming also, we are having a date data type where it is going to reflect to the admin concept same. Right? Here date time. So this is going to indicate the same value here in the programming. Date time. Right? Each date time field refers to the date type. Right? Date and timestamp values. Where we are going to see this date and timestamp values. Let me go to any one of the record. I will show you here. Where we can store date and time. You go to any record. If you come down, see here, this is the date time format. Okay, date will be and time will be there. Date will be there and the time will be there. This is the date for time. If you want only particular date means you should select date format. If you want directly to only time means you should select time format. So date time will indicate content, all these things. Okay. Now coming to what is the next one here. So next one is Boolean. Right? Boolean. Boolean means it allows us to store just true or false. Right? Boolean means true or false values inside the variable. Right? How I am going to reflect this particular Boolean to our admin concepts. So here we are having one checkbox. See here, checkbox. So which allows us to select true or false values. The same here in the admin concept, checkbox is going to reflect the Boolean here. In the programming language, it is nothing but a Boolean. Right? Each checkbox field will reference the Boolean data type. Okay? It allows us to store true or false values inside the variable. Okay? Next one is ID. What is ID here? ID means, so this data type allows us to store 15 to 18 characters record ID inside the variable. So if you open Salesforce, see here, this is the ID. So in order to store this particular ID value, right, inside a variable. So in the programming, I need to use ID data type. Okay. So how I am going to relate this particular ID? How I am going to relate this particular ID in this admin concept? Yes. So here we are having lookup relation, right? So lookup is nothing but it is storing the ID value only, right? Then only it is going to provide. See here, when I open this particular owner, see account owner is storing user ID value, right? Here it is storing Dhanaraj admin ID value. When I click on this particular Dhanaraj admin, so it is redirecting to the, see, my ID, right? That means the lookup field. So this ID is related to the in admin concept lookup, master detail, hierarchical, external lookups, right? The type of ID field. So it is used to store 15 to 18 characters record ID. Okay. Next, coming to this integer. Integer. So it is allowed us to store numerical values. So integer means numerical values. That's correct. But without any decimal points. Without any decimal points. Like this. Like for example, like 10, 200, 3000, like this. It is going to, without decimal values, it is going to store numerical values. Right? Each integer value will occupy here 4 bytes of memory. Each integer value will occupy 4 bytes of memory here. So what is the range? Here I am getting one doubt, right? What is the range for integer? So for integers, it may be minus 2 power 31 to 2 power 31 minus 1. So up to here we can store the values. This is the range of integer. So integer, when you are selecting the integer data type, so it is going to store up from this value to this value, right? Without any decimal points. So how this is going to relate to the admin concepts? So let me open this admin data types. So which fields? So each number field, if you can see here number field, right? It allows us to store number value. Nothing but here I'm not going to store any decimal points, right? The same integer is reflecting the number data type. Right? Each number field or percentage field or currency field will refer to the integer data types. All these things. Number, percent, right? This currency, this type of fields. Right? So if you want to store currency in Apex programming, you have to use integer. If you want to store percent in Apex, you have to use integer. If you want to store any number in Apex, you have to use integer. Right? In admin concepts, if you are having different number, if you want to store number data type, percentage data type, currency data type. But in the programming, so we have to select integer data type. Okay. Next, coming to this long. So if you want to store still larger integer values, so more than this. So more than this means, so minus 2 power 63 to 2 power 63 minus 1. Right? So each long data type, right? So long nothing but it allows here. This is the long. So it is a range, long data type range. It allows us to store the larger integer values. Here also without any decimal points only. Integer and long without decimal points. These two without decimal points. Okay. Without decimal points, I am going to store the numerical values, integer and long. This is the range, and if you want to store more than these values, we have to use the long data type. Right? So that means each long data type will occupy 8 bytes of memory here. Okay. So now coming to this decimal. Decimal. So decimal means it allows us to store numerical values, including decimal points. So decimal. Right? So like this, like for example, 150.50, 170.25, like this. So up to here, I'm storing integer values. But if I want to store after this point decimal, right? Decimal values I want to store. Then I have to use decimal data type. Right? So it is going to reflect. So if you open here, so currency is there. See, if you select this currency, click on next. See here, if it is a 0, then you can use like number data, integer data type. If it is 2, like the decimal points, so if you have to store some decimal points like this, then in Apex language, if you're supposed to use decimal data type. Right? If there is no any decimal data type, means you can use integer. If there is a decimal points means, then you have to use decimal. Okay. So each currency field will reflect the decimal data type. Okay. So obviously double, right now. So what is double here? It is also used to store numerical values, but with more number of decimal digits. more number of decimal digits. For example, more number of decimal digits means, for example, there is a 10 by 3. If you are going to divide 10 by 3 means it is going to give 3.3333333 like this. So in order to store this type of values, right? If I want to store some pi value 3.1412 like this, right? So like this, if I want to store more number of decimal digits inside a variable, then I have to use double. So these two are with the decimal points. With the decimal points. Okay. So here decimal points I can use. Here more number of decimal points I can use. More number of decimal digits. Okay. So here I can use two decimal digits. Here I can use more than two. So integer also it is going to store numerical values, but with this range. Long is also storing the numerical values, but more larger integers. Right? And there is a one more format also known as blob. There is a one more primitive data blob. Binary large objects. In order to store images, blob means binary large objects. Images, right? Pictures, audio files, right? Or video files, or attachments, right? Attachments, any PDF documents, Word documents, all these things. So in order to store all the right, in order to store like images, pictures, attachments, right? So I am going to use blob. Blob. In admin concept, there is a there is a same type of one object is there. What is that object? Yes, document. So in the document only we are going to store the PDF files. We are going to store the images. All these things in the starting of the admin classes we have discussed. So I have stored some of the images there and I have used whenever I require. And the same concept. So each document object will refer to the blob data type. So this is one of the data type blob where it can store so the pictures, attachments, all these things. Right? So all these are nothing but primitive data types. Primitive, integer, long, double, decimal, boolean. Right? Now coming to the S object. Now coming to this S object. Okay. So what is it here? S object. S object means Salesforce object data type. So S object means Salesforce object data type. So where it is going to interact. Salesforce object means where it is going to interact with the Salesforce objects through programming. Right? In order to interact with the Salesforce object through programming, I need to use S object. Like for example, account, contact, right? Not only standard, you can use custom objects as well. Doctor underscore underscore C, patient, right? Underscore underscore C like this. S object means where it is going to interact with the Salesforce object through programming. All the standard and the custom objects can be accessible when you are using S object data type. So all the standard and the custom objects can be accessible here. Okay. So now coming to this. So S object you understood, right? So now coming to this variables. Variables. So what is a variable here? Right? So let me tell you a small example. So let me have all of you having the mobile phones, right? So in the mobile phones, when you are storing your friend mobile number, right? Let me say some Dhanaraj. So Dhanaraj, I am going to save Dhanaraj's phone number 9876543210. Okay, I am going to store. So how I am going to store? So I am opening my mobile and entering my number 9876543210. This is the value. So, which I am going to assign to some name, Dhanaraj. Right? I am going to store this particular phone number in this value. So from next time onwards, when I'm selecting, no need to type enter number every time. Simply, I need to select the Dhanaraj. That's it. So automatically it will redirect to the this particular number. So what you understand from this? So the value I am going to store in some variable. It is nothing but a variable here. It is nothing but a name. We can simply say that it is a name which can be allocated to a memory location. Why I need to use this in order to locate a value, right? In this particular value, I am going to store in this name. So from next time onwards, I need to use this name only, not this value, right? So remembering of names is easy, right? Instead of values, the names are very easy. So I need to use this names. So here, these names are nothing but a variable. So now tell me what is a variable here? It is used to store the values. It is used to store the values temporarily, right? Temporarily. Okay, right? So as part of the application requirements, we are going to define n number of variables. N number of variables. So what is the syntax for it? How to use this variable? So I need to use the access specifier. Access specifier. Now data type. So what is the data type? And what is the variable name? Right? What is the variable name? So is equals to value. Right? Ends with a semicolon. Right? Access specifier I will discuss. So what are the different access specifiers we are having that we are going to discuss? Okay. So now let me consider up to here this part. Okay. So what is the data type? I am going. So for example, what is this data type? Some integer value. So integer value I am going to store in a name. Right? So I need to use the integer data type. So variable name is Dhanaraj. Value is 9876543210. Hope you understand now, right? So we have to specify the meaningful names for the variable, right? So I'll tell a small example for you. So let us say I'm going to store some customer name or some balance amount, right? So I need to use here. So the variable name should be a single word. No spaces should be there. So whenever you are declaring the variable name should be a single word. No space. You should not have no spaces. So you need to keep in mind that. So variable should be a single word. Okay. It should be a single word. No spaces. So always it is recommended to start the variable with a character only. Right? Always variables should start with a character. Right? So we can use a special character as underscore also. Right? Special character underscore we can use, or we can use the characters in a small letter, small lowercase characters. Single word. These are the three conditions we have to use. So first condition is the single word. Second condition is you can use, right? You can use underscore or you can use lowercase letters. Lowercase letter. So these two you have to follow when we are declaring any variable here. Okay. So you can use this underscore. How I am going to use, let me tell you here. For example, so customer name is there. Customer name. Okay. So instead of this, I can use like this customer underscore name. So it should start with the lowercase letter, right? No spacing is there. It should be a single word. No spacing is there. And you can use underscore inside this variable. Right? So I'll tell you small examples for it. For example, I need to store the all different data types I can see now. Okay. So let us say first data type is ID. So in order to store the student ID. So ID means so I am going to use ID or you can use the integer also. Integer also. So integer, right? So student ID. Student ID. ID is nothing but some value number, right? So I'm going to store in a integer. So you're not assigning any values. Just I'm declaring the variable. This is nothing but declaration. This is a declaration of a variable, right? I'm not going to assign. So value is not assigned here. Just a declaration of a variable. You can assign values later. Okay. Just first of all, declaration of variable is completed. Okay. So why can't we use ID? ID means the 18 characters Salesforce ID. That means it is a lookup. You can keep in mind that a lookup relation. Right? So 18 characters Salesforce ID, not this particular ID. This is an ID, nothing but a number. So where I am going to store in an integer data type. So this is the name. This is the data type. Right? Value is not there. Okay. So now I am going to store the student name. So student, sorry, small letter, right? Okay. Student name. So name means here, which is string, nothing but text, right? So we can use string data type, right? If you want to store the address, student address, okay, which is a, what is that? String data type. Okay. So what is the fee amount? So fees amount means fee amount. So here I am declaring an amount. Amount means it may be some so 50,000 or 52,000. Some numbering is there, but sometimes it may be some digits also, and decimal digits also there. So it is an amount is related. Amount means obviously decimal digits will be there. So you can use decimal. Instead of integer, you have to use decimal because amount may be some having integer, sorry, decimal values also. So what is the joining date? So student joining date. So date means you have to use date data type, right? So whether he is active or not, that means true or false. Which data type I have to use? Yes, Boolean data type, right? Boolean data type I have to use. This is the names, right? Joining date, is active, fee, amount, student address. These are the names we have to refer anywhere in the class. Right? Whenever in the Apex program, wherever you are writing Apex programming, so whenever you require, you can use student ID, student name, student. These names I can use instead of the values. So the values will be stored in this. So student ID will be 1, 2, 3, 4. So the value, name Dhanaraj, address Hyderabad, some fee amount, right? Joining date, Boolean is active, yes or no. So all these values I'm going to store in this particular names. Name is nothing but a variable here. In Apex, we are calling it as a variable, right? If you are not going to assign any value, right? Here I'm not going to assign, just declaration is completed, but I have not assigned any value. So by default, it is going to take default value will be null. Default value will be null, right? So like this way I can define in a string. For example, here you can see string student name is there, student address, string student address is there. So instead of using two different variables, I can use a single variable like this. String student name, okay, comma, student address. Student address. Like this I can use. Right? Instead of while defining the variable, we can define multiple variables in a single line. Right? Multiple variables. Here two variables. Like this, we can define multiple variables in a single line instead of in a double lines. Right? So later we can see how these values are assigned. And tomorrow we can see this operators also. Operators, output statement, how we are going to use output statements, all these things. Okay. So that's it for today. So if you're having any doubts at any point of time, just mention in the comments. I'm going to respond to those comments. So keep following this channel for the latest updates. Thank you.